everybody, this is Black here, and welcome back to another Doctor Who video, in which today I am going to be taking a look at my top 11 Virgin New Adventure books. Now, on my previous video that I uploaded yesterday, well, hopefully I get this video out today whenever I'm recording it, but hopefully this video goes out today. And on my previous video, a YouTuber by the name of Harry Williams Productions requested that I do my top 11 Virgin New Adventure books list, and I normally don't accept review requests, but review requests are something that I am pretty interested in doing. Again, possibly sometime in the future. I'm not quite sure yet, so but I thought this should be a good enough point to start off with review requests again. I'm not 100% sure if review requests are coming back, but because I sort of have loads of reviews and plans at the minute of what I want to do on YouTube. Heck, I've got about, oh god, 50 videos I want to do, near enough 50 videos I want to do, including this one. And the main reason why I'm doing this is I want to try and get out top 10s a bit more on my channel, a bit more frequently, so I thought this would be sort of a good place to start. I know this is a top 11, but still. But anyways, let's move on to my top 11 Virgin New Adventures of all time. I chose 11 just simply because I can, and that's how many I've read. And Harry Williams wanted a top 10, and I read 1 over 10, so I thought I might as well do a top 11. Most of these Doctor Who books in this video today I have reviewed, except Time Room Genesis and Toy Soldiers. Other than that, every single Doctor Who book you will see in this video I have reviewed. And you will find a link in the description of this video linking you to my playlist of every single Doctor Who book review I have done to date. So without further ado, let us begin this review, or this top 10 or top whatever video, by starting off at number 11 with the beginning of the Virgin New Adventures, Time Room Genesis. Now, since I haven't read most of these Doctor Who books in a while, there's going to be a few that I talk about more frequently, that talk about a little bit longer than some others, and this is a sort of rule to that. Time Room Genesis, this is or sort of a point in that rule, I guess you'd say, because Time Room Genesis is a Doctor Who book I haven't read in quite a while, and I cannot remember a terrible lot about it. I mainly started to read this Doctor Who books, and I mainly read this Doctor Who book simply because of one reason. I was really interested in reading the Cat's Cradle trilogy, all of it in fact. Time's Crucible, Warhead, and even Witchmark interested me, and I heard you needed to read the Time Room books before venturing into the Cat's Cradle books, because of arcs and whatnot. So naturally I started to read Time Room Genesis, and just to sort of, and I was intending to read the entire Time Room quadrilogy, but this is as far as I've come with the that quest of reading all of those books so far, because this wasn't a very good start to it. This isn't the greatest Doctor Who book in my opinion. The it's pretty bad in my opinion. Not a favourite Doctor Who book of mine at all. Fairly poor start to the Virgin New Adventures in my opinion. Yeah, some parts of it were good, but on a whole it wasn't that good, and it really does have some awful moments in it, such as this king of this village is literally depicted as a paedophile by raping his 15-year-old servant, which is pretty fucked up. And as you might be able to guess, yes, this book is pretty fucked up, and that's what the Virgin New Adventures are sort of renowned for. So I guess you could sort of go back and view Time Room Genesis as sort of more of an experimentation with original fiction Doctor Who books, but as a whole it isn't that good of a read in my opinion. and as a start to Doctor Who books, it isn't the greatest either. Yeah, in hindsight it's more of an experimental read, just really the people at Virgin playing around with what ideas and whatnot and what they could get away with regards to the Virgin New Adventures, and in my opinion it didn't overall succeed as a read. This overall gets a 4 out of 10. And next up, interestingly enough, that was the beginning of the Virgin New Adventures, and now we have the end of the Virgin New Adventures. Well, the end of the Virgin New Adventures with the Doctor, with The Dying Days by Lance Parkin. Okay, I'm going to be completely honest with you here. This is the most amount of money I have spent on a singular Doctor Who book. I kid you not, I spent 35 quid on this Doctor Who book, which is a bargain considering that it's like 120 quid now on Amazon, but was it worth it? No, it really wasn't worth it at all. This is a sort of a mixture between quite a few Doctor Who stories, such as the Invasion, the Christmas Invasion, and another new series story I think, but I can't quite remember which one. And overall it isn't that good of a book in my opinion. Yeah, some parts of it I did like, such as the 8th Doctor and Benice's characterisation, but overall it isn't that good of a Doctor Who book. The action sort of had potential, but it didn't really engage me at all. And the Ice Warriors are completely and utterly shit in this Doctor Who book to top it all off. And for whatever reason, Lance Parkin decided that an Ice Warrior could become the King of England. One could cry, and some could use fucking hang gliders for whatever reason. Some interesting ideas and concepts for a Doctor Who book, but overall this is just a bit of a flop in my opinion. Really silly in some areas and really stupidly written in some areas. Not a great end to the Virgin New Adventures with the Doctor as the main character in the books. Overall, bit of a flop in my opinion. I did review this one, and during that time I gave it 2 out of 10, but in hindsight I was a bit harsh, and I now give this book a 4 out of 10. Next up we have a Doctor Who book that's in a bag, which is probably what I'll need when talking about this Doctor Who book, because quite frankly you may need a sick bag whilst reading this Doctor Who book. At number 9 we have Damaged Goods, and as you can see this list is going to be controversial, as we've got some of the highest up or most highly critically acclaimed Virgin New Adventures right low on the list, but hey, that's just my opinion. I should have put a disclaimer at the beginning, but whatever. Anyways, Damaged Goods. I did review this book at one point last year, which is over a year ago now, with on the 31st of January, and it was a mammoth 37-minute long review, and it truly needed to be that long, simply because this book has quite a lot of fucked up stuff in it, and I personally feel that it needed to be described. So if you want a massive in-depth explanation onto how just not necessarily crap, but sort of how off-puttingly graphic this Doctor Who book is, please check out my review. But anyways, in short, this Doctor Who book had some interesting ideas to it, some interesting concepts, an interesting premise, and some absolutely great writing in some areas. Like there was, I think, a 100-page streak in this Doctor Who book where like it was a solid 9 for me, but overall it's really off-putting to read and just really fucked up. Far too graphic even for a Virgin New Adventure. We have this guy dousing himself in petrol or something, setting himself alight, and then killing himself when he survives all of that by shoving a syringe needle into the side of his head. Then we have the villain of the story killing I think it was something like 40,000 people all at the same time, and also a child crumbling to nothing but dust right in front of their family, which is so immeasurably fucked up. And top it all off, we have one of the best Doctor Who villains ever, Eva Jericho, in this book. But even the fucked upness doesn't escape her. I kid you not, in this Doctor Who book, she literally masturbates to cutting up clothes and returning them to shops saying they were damaged goods. It's it's ridiculous, this Doctor Who book, quite frankly. And I did enjoy it to some extent, but overall it isn't an amazing Doctor Who book in my opinion. This is sort of where we get to the Virgin New Adventures, which are good to some extent in my personal opinion. And Damaged Goods started off with a 6 out of 10. This is one Doctor Who book. Now next up is probably pretty much me asking for myself to be murdered with this next Doctor Who book, because at number 8 we have the most legendary, iconic and just most sought after Doctor Who book in existence, I would say. But at the same time, I personally find this to be probably the most overrated Doctor Who book in existence to some extent. Number 8, Lungbarrow. People are probably like, what the fuck, Lungbarrow at number 8? Are you fucking mad? Let me get it straight. This book isn't bad. It's far from being bad. In fact, I would say it's even great to some extent. It's with some absolutely fantastic and really interesting premises, such as the Lungbarrow house, the Doctor meeting his family, the sort of political sort of plot lines there were. It's just that overall, in my opinion, I just found this book to be quite underwritten, and overall it just felt like a first draft to me. I feel like this book could have been written a lot better. What was actually going on in the book, in my opinion, was good, but my actual problem with the book overall is the writing. The writing is a bit shoddy, but it still has some very good concepts to it, such as the Gallifreyan political plotline with Romana and Leela, the Doctor meeting his family, Badger, the Lungbarrow house, some fantastic stuff in it. It's just that in my opinion the writing could have been a lot better. Again, this is another Doctor Who book I have reviewed, and in that review I gave it a 6 out of 10, but now I'm going to up my rating to a 6.5 out of 10. And next up we have another critically acclaimed Virgin New Adventure, and that is Human Nature by Paul Cornell. Yes, as you might be able to guess so far, I do tend to steer towards the more anonymous and hated Virgin New Adventures, I guess you would say, to a reasonable extent. So anyways, up next we have Human Nature by Paul Cornell. I honestly cannot remember much about this Doctor Who book at all, to be honest, which the same sort of thing applies with the next Doctor Who book I'm about to show you. But yeah, Human Nature, from what I can remember, it was quite a good Doctor Who book overall. I wouldn't necessarily describe it as one of the best Doctor Who books ever, but I will give it credit because the characterisation, character development, character chemistry and character interactions between the 7th Doctor and Bernice Summerfield in this book were pretty fantastic. It's just that in my opinion overall this wasn't an amazing Doctor Who book. At this point in time I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, but I think I need to reread it. And sort of same thing can be said with the next Doctor Who book, which is Toy Soldiers by Paul Leonard. Again, this is a Doctor Who book I haven't read in ages and I can barely remember anything about it, but from what I remember, it was great. This is sort of where we get into like the really good Virgin New Adventures in my opinion, from what I've read so far. So yeah, Toy Soldiers by Paul Leonard. I cannot remember much about it, but I do remember this being a rather complicated but at the same time gripping war story about the enslavery of children, I think. Yeah, it had some really good and interesting concepts, some great characters, great characterization, and I just remember this overall to be a very solid Doctor Who book. Can't really say much more on that. And Toy Soldiers gets an 8 out of 10. Now we're moving on to my top 5 Virgin New Adventures of all time. All 5 of these made it into my top 40 Doctor Who books of all time video that I did recently, and number 1 even made it into my top 5 Doctor Who books of all time in that video. Anyways, at number 5 we have Return of the Living Dad by Kate Orman. This is just not not a hard sort of deep gritty science fiction book like Original Sin, Toy Soldiers, Shakedown, Lucifer Rising, any of that. This is just a nice, fun, sort of rompy, light-hearted Doctor Who book. So yes, throughout the Virgin New Adventures, I think ever since she sort of first appeared in the Virgin New Adventures, there's always been this overarching sort of character arc with Bernice Summerfield about her dad going off to fight the Daleks. And in this, as you probably will be able to guess by the title, and since the blurb sort of gives away, it's not a spoiler that her dad comes back. So yeah, it's more of a character piece for Bernice Summerfield, I'll say, but overall it's a really good, fun, sort of rompy adventure. And if you like Bernice Summerfield, I'll highly recommend this book, as this is a great character piece of Bernice Summerfield. And to top that all off, it features the return of the Navarinos from Delta and the Bannerman of all things. Next up at number 4 we have Bad Therapy by Matthew Jones, who hasn't done a lot for Doctor Who actually. He's only done this novel, a few short stories, and The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit from Series 2, I think. But anyways, Bad Therapy. If you like the Autons, I will say you will absolutely love this Doctor Who book, as the mannequins, which are these things here, are monsters very similar to the Autons. And so yeah, overall this is a really good Doctor Who book. Sort of deals with mental patients and the mannequin monsters really well, and it also deals with the characterization and character, all the sort of character interactions and the character trauma that the Doctor and Chris are suffering through. Sort of like Return of the Living Dad, this book is a character piece for the 7th Doctor and Christopher Quedge, I think, because the book chronologically, timeline wise, directly before Bad Therapy was So Vile a Sin, which was Roz Forrester's departure novel, and they are, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but Roz's departure in So Vile a Sin is apparently pretty horrific from what I've heard, and pretty shocking. So it's sort of something like the PDA book Salvation, where the Doctor and Stephen are sort of affected in their mood by the events of the massacre. But yeah, overall this is a great Virgin New Adventure. I've read it twice, and it's overall a very good characterization and character piece for the 7th Doctor and Christopher Quedge. And if you like the Autons, I would highly recommend this Doctor Who book, as it features some monsters that are very much like the Autons. Would highly recommend this Doctor Who book, and I'd overrate it an 8 out of 10. Now we're moving on to my top 3 Virgin New Adventures of all time. Now these next 3 books here all get 10 out of 10s. And next up, at number 3 in this list, we have Original Sin by Andy Lane. This book, in my opinion, is just absolutely incredible. again, sort of going on the run of character pieces and whatnot. It's more of a character piece for Christopher Credge and Rosalind Forrester first, or as this is their first novel in the Virgin New Adventures, and they are very well characterised, and I will say this is a brilliant introduction for them. So yeah, overall this is just a really good sort of technological sort of sci-fi thriller, with the return of one of the greatest Doctor Who villains ever, and one of the Doctor Who villains least likeliest to return, which is very interesting. But yeah, Original Sin by Andy Lane, absolutely fantastic Doctor Who book overall. Is great sort of sci-fi epic in my opinion, spliced with the occasional really good piece of humour, such as the Seventh Doctor himself licking a pavement, believe it or not. But yeah, there you go, Original Sin, absolutely fantastic Doctor Who book in my opinion. Out of all Virgin New Adventures that are on this list, I think I would recommend this one the most, personally, along with Shakedown, which you're about to see. So this and Shakedown in my opinion are the Doctor Who books that are out of this list that I would recommend the highest. So if you're watching this video just to try and get a flavour for more Virgin New Adventure books on which ones to go for, I'd highly suggest going for this Doctor Who book, Original Sin, and this we have Shakedown by Terrence Dicks. In my opinion, this book is just freaking stellar. Good God, is this a good Doctor Who book. And in my review I did describe this as sort of being a Sontaran version of the Daleks Master Plan, and I do stick by that. It's just an absolutely incredible, kaleidoscopic, wonderful science fiction epic with the Sontarans in it. Again, like Original Sin, it has some very interesting sort of humorous moments in it, such as the Doctor building I think it was a lockpick and a weapon out of a sort of a statuary sculpture thing, made out of metal rods and wires, I think. Yeah, anyways, overall, Shakedown in my opinion is an absolutely incredible Doctor Who book, and I would highly recommend this Doctor Who book overall. If you like your big epic science fiction novels, with regards to Doctor and your big epic science fiction stories like the Daleks Master Plan and sort of stories like that, you can't really go wrong with Original Sin and Shakedown. They're some of the best examples of those stories out there. And next up at number 1 we have probably, I guess you would say, the most, no pun intended, shadowed and sort of anonymous Virgin New Adventure novel, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're watching this and you're like, holy crap, I haven't even heard of that novel. But anyways, at number 1 we have Falls the Shadow by Daniel O'Mahony. This shouldn't come to as a surprise to anybody who has been watching my channel for a while now. I have talked about this book quite often on my channel recently. But overall, Falls the Shadow, to best describe Falls the Shadow, it's as if Daniel O'Mahony put the Mind Robber, the Seeds of Doom and Castor Valva all into a blender and somehow managed to make the output work somehow, which sounds like something that wouldn't work. That sounds like 3 stories that just don't go together, Mind Robber, Seeds of Doom and Castor Valva, but somehow Daniel O'Mahony manages to make it work and just delivers one of the greatest and most compelling Doctor Who novels I have ever read, which heavily focuses on the concept of having a reality outside of reality, like Mind Robber episode 1 dealt with. But yeah, overall, this is an absolutely incredible Doctor Who book. I don't think it will be everybody's cup of tea, so I would not necessarily, I think this book is more of an acquired taste, I guess you would say. as I think you've got a sort of I guess you'd say sort of psychedelic stories to sort of an extent, and this isn't an epic in the sense that something like Shakedown or Original Sin, where just like the scale is huge and whatnot. It's sort of it's more of a subtle epic, I guess you would say. I don't know, something along the lines of Power of the Daleks, I guess you would say. So that's why I didn't really recommend this Doctor Who book. So that's why my top recommendations out of this list are Original Sin and Shakedown, as this is quite a different Doctor Who book, and I cannot guarantee 100% that you will like this Doctor Who book. However, I will still recommend this book highly, as it is one of my favourite Doctor Who books of all time. I believe this appeared in number 4 in my top 40 list, and this is a very different, very experimental and very bold and daring read overall. And it's just absolutely incredible in my opinion, and I would overall rate Falls the Shadow by Daniela Mahoney a 10 out of 10. And there you go, there was my top 11 Virgin New Adventures of all time. Not sure what my next video will be, as I have a lot of videos in the work, as I said in the beginning of this video. Most likely a Skulls General Reviews episode. But yeah, just like, favorite, comment, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Pitch Skull Black dematerializing.